Australia is famous for animals found nowhere else. Yet even now, scientists are still uncovering species that have remained unnamed, misidentified, or completely unknown to science. In this video, a formally described species has passed scientific comparison and received an official name. A candidate species may look new and have strong evidence behind it, but still needs the full taxonomic process. The date of description is often much later than the date an animal was collected. Museum specimens can wait years or even decades before the right specialist compares them with related species. The first major Australian species announcement of 2025 involved one of the country's most feared spiders, the Sydney funnelweb. What had been treated as one variable species was shown to be a complex of three. Researchers compared fine anatomical features with genetic evidence from populations across the region. The unusually large funnelwebs around Newcastle formed a distinct group and were formally recognized as a new species. The Newcastle funnelweb had already been nicknamed Big Boy because of the impressive size of its males. Its scientific name honors spider enthusiast Kane Christensen, who helped bring the population to researchers' attention. The revision changes how scientists map the spider's range and study its venom. Importantly, the Australian Museum says the existing funnelweb antivenom remains effective across the newly recognized species. In Queensland, a small lizard revealed how much biological diversity can be concentrated on one island. The Scawfell Island sunskink was described from an island about 50 kilometers east of Mackay. The skink has distinctive orange markings along its sides and lives among rocks in rainforest gullies. Surveys of surrounding islands failed to find it, indicating that it is restricted to Scawfell Island. The island was already known for a unique leaf-tailed gecko named in 2023. With the sunskink, Scawfell became the only Queensland island then known to support two vertebrate species found nowhere else. A species cannot be properly assessed or managed until people know it exists. Formal recognition gives conservation agencies a name, a distribution, and a scientific basis for monitoring threats to its tiny island habitat. On the same date, researchers described two new trapdoor spiders from the northern Kimberley of Western Australia, Quonkin fluctellus and Quonkin nemoralis. Members of this genus are unusual because they modify the entrances of their burrows with raised turrets or collars. The structures help identify the spiders even when the animals remain concealed underground. These were the first species in the genus formally described from northern Australia. Every known specimen of Quonkin nemoralis came from a bush blitz expedition conducted in 2022. The researchers noted that many more Quonkin species remain to be described, especially in Western Australia. Small, localized invertebrates are among the groups most likely to contain hidden diversity. The year's most striking marine discovery was the Carnarvon flapjack octopus, a tiny, gelatinous deep-sea animal named from specimens collected off northwestern Australia. It grows to around 4 centimeters in diameter and has enormous eyes relative to its body. The specimens came from depths between 1,044 and 1,510 meters. The animal can flatten itself like a pancake, then pull its soft body upward into a shape resembling a tiny umbrella. It belongs to the serrate octopuses, often called Dumbo octopuses. Unlike familiar shallow-water octopuses, it produces no ink and cannot rapidly change color. It is orange-brown, with blood-red arms, and is thought to grow and reproduce slowly on the deep seafloor. So far, it is known only from the Carnarvon Canyon and Gascoyne marine parks. Its description came from a 2022 voyage of the research vessel Investigator, which surveyed habitats thousands of meters below the surface. Specimens from the same voyage helped researchers describe another remarkable animal, the West Australian lantern shark, a small deep-sea shark capable of producing light. Lantern sharks carry light-producing organs called photophores along the belly and flanks. The glow may help with camouflage, communication, or recognizing other members of the same species in dark water. The largest known specimen measured just over 40 centimeters. It has large eyes, a slender body, and a sharp spine in front of each of its two small dorsal fins. Researchers found it at depths down to 610 meters in the Gascoyne Marine Park region. Its species name directly refers to Western Australia, the place where it is known to occur. A second species described from the voyage was far smaller, an opalescent white and yellow porcelain crab only about 15 millimeters long. The crab lives in partnership with sea pens, soft corals whose pale branches provide shelter and camouflage. Its light color makes it difficult to see among the host's leaf-like structures. Instead of relying mainly on its claws to grab food, it uses specialized hairy mouthparts to sweep tiny particles and plankton from the water. It was recorded along the Ningaloo coast at depths down to 122 meters. One of Australia's smallest new species also carried one of the most memorable names, the Game of Thrones shrimp, a shrimp-like crustacean measuring only 2.5 millimeters. It was collected off Jervis Bay in New South Wales at depths between 3,881 and 4,026 meters under immense pressure and in permanent darkness. The genus name refers to House Greyjoy from Game of Thrones. The species name honors Mundugala, a spirit from Australian indigenous mythology, joining a modern cultural reference with an older Australian story. In western New South Wales, a lizard known to traditional owners as Kungaka, meaning the hidden one, was finally recognized scientifically as a distinct species. The Kungaka survives in a sheltered rocky gorge in Mutawinji National Park. It represents an ancient lineage from a wetter Australia, now isolated within a hot and dry landscape. For decades, it was treated as an isolated population of white skink. Genetic and body shape comparisons showed that it is distinct and sits about 500 kilometers from its nearest relatives. After 25 years of monitoring, researchers estimate that as few as 20 individuals may remain. That would make the newly named Kungaka one of the rarest reptiles in Australia. Feral goats damage vegetation and fragile rocky shelters. Cats and foxes may prey on the lizards, while intensifying heat and drought threaten the cool, humid refuge on which this tiny population depends. Its recognition came through collaboration between Wieampatja knowledge holders, scientists, and park managers. Naming the species is not the end of the story, it is the starting point for urgent recovery work. Then came a discovery on a completely different scale. In April 2026, marine taxonomists announced that more than 110 fish and invertebrate species from the Coral Sea appeared to be new to science. The animals were collected during a late 2025 voyage through the Coral Sea Marine Park from depths between 200 and 3,000 meters. Researchers said the total could rise above 200 as harder to recognize species are confirmed. Among the strongest candidates were two rays, a deepwater cat shark, and a chimera. Researchers also identified likely new brittle stars, crabs, sea anemones, sponges, and many other invertebrates. This point matters. The 110 were identified as new to science, but most had not yet received formal scientific names. Each still requires detailed comparison, publication, and permanent museum specimens. Specialists met in large taxonomic workshops, comparing anatomy and genetic evidence while entering records into an open biodiversity platform. The specimens are now held in national and state museum collections for continuing study. The Coral Sea Marine Park covers almost 1 million square kilometers, much of it deep and poorly explored. Seamounts, atolls, deep reefs, and abyssal sediments can each support communities that science has barely sampled. Australia's research vessel, Investigator, illustrates the scale of the task. In its first 12 years, voyages helped scientists describe 179 species new to science. A specimen can be collected in minutes, but proving that it represents a new species can take years. Researchers must compare museum material, old scientific literature, body structures, genetics, location, and natural history. Accurate names are not just labels. They reveal restricted ranges, separate common species from rare ones, guide environmental surveys, and help governments decide which habitats and populations require protection. The recent discoveries do not mean these animals suddenly appeared. They show that our catalogue of life is still incomplete, particularly in the deep ocean, remote islands, rocky refuges, and the world of small invertebrates. From a giant funnel web hidden inside a familiar name, to a lizard with perhaps only 20 survivors, and more than 100 candidate species from one coral sea voyage, Australia is still full of biological surprises. Every photograph in this video is credited on screen. A complete source and image credit list is included with the download. Research coverage is current to the 18th of July, 2026.